we have a brand new set of Vulnerability House cards.
The Vulnerability House, Volume 2.
New design, new box, all new questions.
What moment from your life are you grateful for that profoundly changed you? Being able to get across to you guys how hard I was finding things and that I wasn't doing well, that feeling of proper connection. When I look back, that was the moment that really changed the trajectory.
It is really, really so heartwarming because you are the best. And I hate it when shit things happen to great people, but I love it when good things happen to great people.
The Imperfects invites you into a very safe place. A place where we share without judgment and drink heaps of vulnerability. Grab yourself a cup. This is the Vulnerability House.
Well, we're celebrating the release of our brand new deck of Vulnerability House cards this week. This is technically the third of the trilogy,
Technically.
which is the three of us were each picking a card from the new deck and answering a question, and it's just the three of us this week in a slightly different episode structure than people are used to. You don't have to listen to the first two to understand what this is a completely self-contained episode, but there've been some really good ones. Two absolute corkers. Yeah. And I don't say corker lightly.
Or ever.
I never say corker. I save it. But yes, for those who don't know, we do the Vulnerability House episodes all the time, and we've had the first deck out for years.
Yeah.
And we're finally releasing a second deck with all new questions, new colours, new branding, a tequila sunrise on paper.
Yeah, they're such good questions and they really spark vulnerability. So
yeah, and they certainly have for me. You guys both did I guess the traditional method, which is the game that is written about in the there's some game cards in the deck.
Where you pick three cards and at random and you choose one that speaks to you.
Exactly. Yeah, but I thought there was a card that when I was reading through them the other day, I just wanted to talk about, especially given the timing of the release of this episode. And so I thought rather than doing random ones, I'd just bring the card that I wanted to read.
Which is an absolutely valid way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can really work the game whichever way is going to help you be vulnerable.
Exactly.
Responsibly.
Yes.
So with that in mind, the card that sparked something for me and seemed important to talk about today is what moment from your life are you grateful for that profoundly changed you? And this
you've never talked about the time we first met. I'll be looking forward to hearing that.
It was 2019 at the Napier Hotel.
It was?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this episode is coming out about 2.5 weeks after we've released an episode with Dr. M about midlife crises and midlife moments. And when we recorded that it was a incredibly profound moment. And so I'm going to choose the recording of that episode as the moment that profoundly changed me and the one that I'm grateful for. Yeah.
Wow.
And so for people who haven't listened to that episode, it was a discussion of the stage of midlife. And going into it, I knew I wasn't feeling great generally.
As in that chat? Or?
Well, no. I for about 6 months leading into that, I hadn't been doing very well. I had been feeling not myself. I was starting to notice signs of some pretty bad patterns of thinking. I was getting really angry with the world, struggling to see the goodness in everything around me. I was not the parent I wanted to be. I was being very short with the kids. I was being very frustrated with I mean, a 3-year-old toddler is a challenging age to parent,
Yep.
but I was being particularly short and presenting the worst version of, well, maybe not the worst, but a very bad version of the parent I wanted to be. And I had been struggling quite a lot. And I had told a few people. I talked to Bridge about it. I had spoken to my wife, Soph, about it. And I called Maria Roberto, who used to be my psychologist and has been on the show a few times, and I can no longer see her. So she recommended a psychologist, and I started seeing a psychologist, and I'd been working with a psychologist for a few weeks, probably about 2 or 3 weeks, when we recorded that midlife episode. So for people who have heard it, that came out a couple of weeks ago, but we recorded that a few months ago. And as you would have heard in the episode, I got emotional. And in what Em talked about, I started to realize that, well, I was lost. And one of the things that my psychologist had told me, and it was the first time in my life anyone had told me this, was that she was concerned that I was exhibiting many signs, and if not the signs, I was actually suffering from depression, which I, despite having some pretty low and tough times in my life, no one had ever said that to me. And I found it really terrifying. And that was only a few days before we recorded that episode. And in the episode, I couldn't work out whether this extreme, like, heart palpitations, like blood pumping, heart rushing, emotional response I was having during that episode was triggered by this feeling of depression, or whether Em was really tapping onto something regarding how when you go through, well, for me, it was that I felt like I knew who I was and what my role as a person was for the first half of my life. And I didn't know how I was going to transition into the second half of my life. I don't know how to, I had this idea that I mentioned many times in the app that maybe it is worth exploring a little bit more for those who listen. But I had this idea, for whatever reason, that as I get older, all I have to do is sort of shrink in size and get out of the way of my kids so they can flourish. It's a bit of a strange reference, but when I used to work at I worked at the Harp Hotel bottle shop in Kew. It was a drive-through bottle shop, and there was a guy that used to come through every Saturday night who was like flashy. He'd be in his sort of late 60s, I reckon. Really flashy, wore like shirts that were buttoned down really low, plugs, fake tan, and he would drive through with his teenage daughter and her friends, and he would try and be one of them, like cool like them, this kind of like big personality, like just I don't know how else to describe him, but a massive wanker, like a horrific guy.
Yeah.
And
sounds great.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I think about that guy a lot, because I think about someone who wasn't able to let go of their youth and who needed to be the center of attention and wasn't able to let his daughter become a bigger personality than him.
Oh, wow.
And he had to dominate, and he had this ego that was meaning I have to be the center, and plus the in sort of inherent creepiness of his behavior too. But then there was also the writings and work of a writer called Christopher Hitchens that talks about how it's important that a father doesn't dominate a child's life for their whole life, like kind of lets them become an adult and lets them flourish without this burdening father. And so I don't know why, but I'd combined those two things together into this idea that I have to kind of gradually disappear from my kids' life so they can live a full life. And in hearing this episode with them, I started to really think, well, I'm not sure there's much left for me in life. Like it's all downhill from here for me. And I think that's probably what triggered this overwhelming feeling of am I depressed, or am I dealing with this realization that maybe my life is in decline now. And I don't know how to operate in the second half of my life.
Mm-hmm.
To go back a bit to when the psychologist had told me she thinks I'm depressed, that was a real wake-up call for me, and I found it terrifying. I think I said in the episode, I felt like, wrongly, but the first thing that I thought was, is this like a diagnosis that I'm sort of stuck with this forever?
Mm-hmm. Like a label that you then changes you.
Yeah, exactly. And so we talked about that with my psychologist, and I realized that no, it doesn't have to be this. And I woke up the next morning and I thought, okay, you've been given a diagnosis. Let's treat it with the medicine that you know how. And a lot of it was drawing on many of the things we've talked about on this podcast. Like, what are the things that I know and I've heard across sort of 200 or so episodes interviewing people that has worked for them? And I thought there's exercise, there's diet, there's sleep, and there's meditation. So I thought, just commit to 2 weeks of getting up at 6 a.m. and doing breath work for 20 minutes and then getting on a bike and riding for 20 minutes pretty hard, and then have a cup of coffee. Stare at the sun was another thing that, like, not stare at it, but like get the sun on your body. That's eyes closed. That's something Maria told me to do. I thought, I'll just give these a go. And I remember the first time I did exercise, anyone who's listened to this show a lot knows that I've got a very complicated history with exercise, but making me feel worse doing it. And I got about 15 minutes into it and a particularly hard bit in the exercise. And the words of my psychologist the day before of saying, if you're finding it hard, try and give yourself the compassion that you would give your kids. And I imagine myself as a sort of 8 or 9-year-old version of me doing the exercise when I started to get this negative voice of saying how terrible you are, how all the terrible things I say to myself. Started to try holding myself the way I would if it was me as an 8-year-old, and saying, you're doing your best and you deserve to feel good. And I started crying quite a lot during the exercise, but it felt like a really good cry. It was like you're actually able to find a bit of compassion for yourself in this moment. And that was huge for me. I know might not sound like much to people, but that was a huge moment. And then I went back the next day and I did it again. And I think the thing that kept me going back to doing all the things, prioritizing sleep, I didn't drink as well for a few weeks. Not because I'm a problem drinker. I just know that if I have a few drinks, then negative thoughts start to come in. And when I'm not doing well, I can't afford that. And I started doing it and I did start to feel a little bit better, and I sort of felt incrementally little bits. But the reason why I wanted to bring up this card as the moment that profoundly changed me was nothing changed me more than sharing with you guys and everyone in this room and being able to get across to you guys how hard I was finding things and that I wasn't doing well. That feeling of proper connection with people who I love and who love me. When I look back, that was the moment that really changed the trajectory. So I was doing all the things. I was doing psychology. I was doing the whole lot. But having that conversation meant that I went home and spoke to Sophie, my wife, properly about it and had a really, really frank and honest conversation about how I was going. And from that moment on, things have started to... That changed my trajectory. It wasn't like I was better, but it sort of changed the direction I was going into a really positive one where I feel so good now after a few months.
Wow.
And I'm not exercising every day. I'm probably still doing breath work every day. I'm probably drinking a bit less and I'm trying to eat well. But I feel like I don't need to do all the things all the time at the moment. I've moved in the right direction. And I'm feeling, I had an appointment with my psych last week, and I kind of went in there feeling like I could say, honestly, looking at her, things are pretty good. Like I feel I feel as good as I've felt in years at the moment.
That's so good.
Yeah. And at the very end of that midlife episode, one of the things that Em talks about is the joy of a beginner's mindset.
That's right.
Of having a beginner's mindset to things. And I've been trying to build a bench that's way too complicated for me, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I've delved into it and I've got to fill all this timber that I bought was the wrong timber for it. It's beautiful, but it requires, this is a bit detailed, but it requires being filled with an epoxy resin, and then it's going to have to be planed back. And then I don't quite have the right gear to do all this. And so I've got to try and work out how to do it with fitting it in amongst my life, with kids and work, and with not really having ever done it before and not knowing how to do it. And I'm kind of loving the fact that it might all go wrong, and it already has gone wrong a couple of times. I've made a few big mistakes, but attacking it with the beginner's mindset of like, oh, well, I've never done this before and I'm learning something new. And at the end of it, it might look like Homer's sculpture in The Simpsons when he does the like, you know.
Is it the spice rack you're talking about?
Sorry, when Homer makes a spice rack, it might look like that, but maybe that's okay. Maybe this is a wonderful experience of trying something new. But if I'd tried that 8 months ago, I would have been so down on myself that I didn't know what I was doing.
Because that's a significant shift for you.
Huge, yeah. And life feels good. Life feels really good. So I guess I wanted to give listeners who heard that a few weeks ago, because it was quite distressing for me to listen to again after months, to hear that place I was in, give them an update to know that I'm going as well as I've gone in years. I feel really good. But also to let people know that I did all the things that people have come in here to have talked about that have helped them. But the thing that really helped me was having a honest, proper connection with other humans who love me and I love.
Yeah. We bang on about connection, but it's like, it is true.
It's so good.
It's so good because it's like, like exercise, eating well, meditation and sleep. They're all kind of individual pursuits and they're important, you know, to differing levels. And of course, like you try everything you can, but it is amazing. Like every bloody time it's proven that it's like people, you know, it's like the other people matter, which was like one of the, you know, for long time listeners, you remember me talking about that and Em talking about that in a much more eloquent way than me. But I think like Josh, it's just, and I'm trying not to say this in a condescending way, but it's like such a privilege to see you like figure it out. Because I've been here watching all the ups and downs of the last 7 years. It's so nice to hear a bloody good news story for once. I'm joking. I'm joking, obviously, but I'm also not joking. It is really, really so heartwarming because you are the best, and I hate it when shit things happen to great people, but I love it when good things happen to great people.
Oh, thanks.
And it's just, it's really nice to hear it.
And my reflection is that it reflects on your parenting. We had the weekend together with all the kids, and gosh, you were just amazing with all of them, and it was very obvious. I haven't heard you say that yet, but now having heard you say that, it makes sense. You were just so good, with the kids, with your kids at the footy and at the park and everything. It was just very evident. So
thank you. That means a lot. As you know, that's the thing that I care most about.
The Hawks.
The Hawks. And I'm certainly far from doing it perfectly, because that I'm learning that as I can't believe I'm still 7 seasons in, and I think I'm still get sucked into trying to do things perfectly. But I think I'm putting my absolute best foot forward I can at the moment, and kind of feeling excited that I don't exactly know what I'm doing. But there's sort of a bit of joy in continually having a beginner's mindset to parenting as well. And I think also to add to this, I'd mentioned on the Patreon episodes that we do a little more Imperfects that I've been feeling really lonely. And I think it's also makes me really happy to say that I've seen more of my friends, I think, in the last few months, and I had a lunch with a group of mates that it was like the best lunch it was old friends, and we had a lunch, and it was just like one lunch that had so much laughter and so much fun in it that it kind of made me realize that they're always there, and good friends are there, and they'll be there. And that, to circle back to this idea of me having to get out of the way, I think I can sort of see a excitement of having a beginner's mindset to how I'm going to carve out the second half of my life.
Wow.
In a way that is not disappearing into nothingness, but living an exciting, different, new, but still the same kind of person. That is, it fills me with just so much excitement to know that that's coming up. Yeah, because awesome. I don't think I'd want to be the same forever. Yeah.
That's great.
Theimperfects.com.au is the website. Do yourself a favour. The new set of the Vulnerability House cards are available now while stocks last. They'll never run out. So, yes, but no, Josh, thank you. That was the best. The best. It's so nice to hear that you're doing great.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone in this room.
Great. Well, that was a really. That's a different week. We've obviously done 3 episodes this week, and we've learnt a lot.
I've pictured Rick Davies sitting there going, geez, the Kylies are really going through it at the moment.
That's what Rick I love. He calls you guys the Kylies, the Van Kylenbergs.
The Kylies.
Yeah, that's the best.
Rick Davies was on our podcast from Offspring and everything. He's great. Yeah.
He is. Well, great. We'll be back to regular programming next week on Monday. But we love the Vulnerability House, and it's so nice to get back to how this started, which is just the 3 of us answering cards and
selling pot. I mean, but
being vulnerable. I'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.
Enjoyed this week's episode but want a little more? Then you might want to know that we have a brand new show called A Little More Imperfects over on Patreon. For a little bit of money, you'll get access to bonus episodes with the 3 of us every fortnight, early access to live events, plus other things that we haven't thought of yet, but when we do think of them, you'll get them. Visit patreon.com/theimperfects.